They said I was illegal. They said I didn't belong here. But what they didn't say was that I had been here for 30 years. 30 years of waking up every morning in this country. 30 years of raising my children here. 30 years of singing in the same church choir every single Sunday. And on one Sunday morning, they came for me. Right there, in the middle of worship, in front of everyone I loved. I still remember the hymn we were singing, Amazing Grace, my favorite. I was standing in the second row of the choir, my robes still warm from the iron, my voice blending with the others like it had every Sunday for 25 years. The light was coming through the stained glass windows, painting colors across the wooden pews. Everything felt peaceful, sacred. And then the doors opened, not softly, not respectfully. They slammed open. I turned my head and I saw them, men in uniforms, vests, badges, guns on their hips, walking down the aisle like they owned the place, like this wasn't a house of God, like we weren't in the middle of prayer. The music stopped. The pastor's voice faltered. People started whispering. Children turned around in their seats, confused. And I just stood there, frozen, my hymnal still open in my hands. One of the agents pointed at me. Her, he said, Grace Williams. Step forward. My heart dropped into my stomach. My legs went weak. I looked around, hoping, praying that maybe they had the wrong person. But deep down, I knew. I had always known this day might come. They walked up to the choir stand, right past the altar, right past the cross, and they grabbed my arm, firm, cold, like I was a criminal. Ma'am, you need to come with us. I didn't resist. I didn't scream. I just looked at my pastor, at my choir sisters, at the children in the front row who knew me as Miss Grace, the lady who always brought lemon cake to Sunday school, and I whispered, I'm sorry. They took me out of that church in handcuffs, in front of everyone, and within 48 hours, I was gone, deported, sent back to a country I barely remembered. This is my story. I came to the United States in 1994. I was 23 years old, young, hopeful, scared out of my mind. I came from Kingston, Jamaica. My mother was a seamstress. My father worked at the docks. We didn't have much, but we had love, we had faith, and we had dreams. My mother used to tell me, Grace, you have a voice. Don't let it stay quiet in this small place. Go somewhere it can be heard. So I came to America on a visitor's visa. I was supposed to stay for 6 months, visit my aunt in Brooklyn, see the Statue of Liberty, maybe sing at a church or two, and then go home. But life had other plans. I met a man, a kind man. He was American, born and raised in Queens. He worked construction. He had a smile that made me feel safe. We fell in love, fast. Maybe too fast, but it felt right. We got married within a year. I thought that would fix everything, that I'd be able to stay legally, that we'd build a life together. And for a while, we did. We had our first daughter, Shanice, in 1996, then our son, Marcus, 2 years later, then the twins, Ayana and Aaliyah, in 2001. 4 beautiful children, all born here, all American citizens. But my marriage didn't last. He wasn't a bad man. He couldn't handle the pressure, the bills, the babies, the responsibility. He left when the twins were still in diapers, just packed his things one night and said he couldn't do it anymore. I was alone, a single mother with 4 kids, no legal status, no degree, no safety net. But I had my voice, and I had my faith. I found work cleaning houses, under the table, cash only. I cleaned for families in Manhattan, in New Jersey, in Connecticut. I scrubbed floors. I washed dishes. I folded laundry. I did whatever it took to feed my babies. And every Sunday, no matter how tired I was, I went to church. Mount Zion Baptist Church on Flatbush Avenue. That place became my home, my family, my refuge. Pastor Leonard was the one who invited me to join the choir. He said, Sister Grace, I hear you humming while you clean the fellowship hall. The Lord gave you that voice for a reason. Come sing with us. So I did. For 25 years, I sang in that choir. I sang at weddings, at funerals, at Easter services and Christmas Eve. I sang when I was happy. I sang when I was heartbroken. I sang when I didn't know how I was going to pay rent. Singing kept me alive. My children grew up in that church. They were baptized there. They learned their Bible verses there. Marcus played drums in the youth band. Shanice taught Sunday school. The twins sang in the children's choir before joining me in the adult one. We were woven into the fabric of that place. People knew me, not as the illegal immigrant, just as Grace, Miss Grace, Sister Grace, the lady with the strong alto voice who always hit the high notes in His Eye is on the Sparrow. I didn't talk much about my status. I didn't advertise it, but I didn't hide it either. A few close friends knew. My pastor knew. They never judged me. They just loved me. And for 30 years, I lived quietly. I worked hard. I stayed out of trouble. I paid my taxes. Yes, even without a social security number, I filed with an ITIN. I contributed. I belonged. But I also lived with fear, a low hum of fear that never quite went away. Every time I saw a police car, my chest tightened. Every time someone knocked on my door unexpectedly, I hesitated. Every time there was news about immigration raids, I prayed a little harder. I had a deportation order from 2002. I knew it was there, hanging over my head like a storm cloud. My lawyer back then said I could apply for relief, but it was denied. After that, I just kept living, kept working, kept singing. I told myself that if I stayed quiet, if I stayed good, maybe they'd forget about me. But they didn't. Things started changing a few years ago. The political climate shifted. Immigration became the topic on every news channel. There were rallies, protests, heated debates, people screaming at each other on TV about who belonged and who didn't. I tried not to watch too much of it. It made my stomach hurt. But I couldn't ignore it completely. Not when people at work started talking about it. Not when my own children came home worried. Shanice called me one evening, her voice tight with anxiety. "Mama, did you see the news? They're doing raids now. In schools, in neighborhoods, even in churches." "Baby, don't worry about me," I said, trying to sound calm. "I've been here 30 years. I'm not doing anything wrong. They're not coming for people like me." But even as I said it, I didn't believe it. Marcus texted me articles, stories about people who had been here for decades, who had families, who had jobs, who were taken anyway, deported within days, no second chances. "Mama, maybe you should talk to a lawyer again," he wrote. "There's gotta be something we can do." I did. I went to a legal clinic in Brooklyn, sat in a cramped office with a young lawyer who looked tired and overwhelmed. I told her my story. She listened, took notes, and then she looked at me with sad eyes. "Mrs. Williams, I'm going to be honest with you. With the current policies and with your deportation order from 2002 still active, you're considered a priority for removal. If they find you, they will deport you. Your best option is to stay out of sight." Stay out of sight. How do you stay out of sight when you've been visible for 30 years? I started being more careful. I stopped going to certain places. I avoided large gatherings. I kept my head down. But I didn't stop going to church. I couldn't. That was the one place I felt safe, the one place I felt whole. Pastor Leonard noticed I was quieter than usual. One Sunday after service, he pulled me aside. "Sister Grace, is everything all right?" I wanted to lie, to say I was fine, but I couldn't, not to him. "Pastor, I'm scared," I whispered. "I'm scared they're going to come for me." He put his hand on my shoulder. "You are a child of God. You are under His protection, and you are a member of this church family. We will not let anything happen to you." His words comforted me, but they couldn't erase the fear. A few weeks later, something happened that shook me to my core. I was at the grocery store, just picking up a few things. As I was checking out, I saw 2 ICE agents walk in. They weren't there for groceries. They were scanning the aisles, looking at faces. I abandoned my cart and walked out quickly. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my keys. When I got home, I locked the door and sat on my couch trying to catch my breath. Ayana came over that evening. She saw the look on my face. "Mama, what happened?" I told her. She sat next to me and held my hand. "Mama, maybe you should stop going out for a while. We can bring you groceries. You can stay home." "And what about church?" I asked. She hesitated. "Maybe just for a little while?" I shook my head. "No, I'm not going to stop living my life. I'm not going to stop worshiping. I've been going to Mount Zion for 25 years. I'm not going to let fear take that from me." She didn't argue, but I could see the worry in her eyes. The next Sunday, I went to church like always. I put on my choir robe. I stood in my usual spot, second row, third from the left. I opened my hymnal. I took a deep breath, and I sang. Everything felt normal, peaceful. The congregation was full. Families sat together. Children fidgeted in their seats. The organist played softly. Pastor Leonard stood at the pulpit and welcomed everyone. "Good morning, church family. Let us begin this service with hearts full of gratitude and praise." We started singing Amazing Grace. I closed my eyes and let the music wash over me. For those few minutes, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't illegal. I wasn't anything but a woman singing to her God. And then the doors opened. The sound echoed through the sanctuary like a gunshot. Everyone turned. The music stuttered to a stop. The organist's hands froze on the keys. 6 men walked in. Uniforms, vests, badges, guns. ICE agents. My heart stopped. They didn't say excuse me. They didn't wait for permission. They just walked down the center aisle, their boots heavy on the old wooden floor. Pastor Leonard stepped forward, his face a mixture of confusion and alarm. "Gentlemen, this is a house of worship. We're in the middle of a service. How can I help you?" The lead agent, a tall man with a cold expression, barely looked at him. "We're looking for Grace Williams. We have a warrant for her arrest and removal." The entire church went silent. I felt every eye turn toward me. My knees went weak. My hands started trembling. The agent scanned the choir stand, and then he pointed directly at me. "You, Grace Williams, step down." I couldn't move. I was frozen. My voice, the one thing I had always relied on, was completely gone. One of my choir sisters, Miss Betty, grabbed my hand. "Don't you move, baby. Don't you go with them." But the agents were already walking toward the choir stand. Pastor Leonard stepped in front of them, his arms outstretched. Wait, you cannot do this here. This is a sacred space. These people are in worship. You have no right. Sir, step aside or you will be charged with obstruction." He didn't move. His voice was steady, but I could hear the fear underneath. "This woman has been a member of this church for 25 years. She is a mother, a grandmother. She has done nothing wrong. You cannot come into God's house and step aside." 2 agents pushed past him. They climbed the steps to the choir stand. People gasped. Someone started crying. One of the agents reached for my arm. "Ma'am, you need to come with us, now." I looked at Miss Betty, at the other choir members, at the faces of people I had worshipped with for decades, people I had laughed with, cried with, prayed with. "Please," I whispered, "please, not here, not in front of everyone. You can come willingly or we can use restraints. Your choice." My legs were shaking so badly I could barely stand, but I stepped forward. I didn't want them to drag me. I didn't want the children to see that. Miss Betty tried to hold on to me, but another agent pulled her back. "Ma'am, do not interfere." As they led me down from the choir stand, I heard voices rising. "Let her go. She's done nothing wrong. This is a church. You can't do this here." Children were crying. Adults were shouting.
The agents ignored all of it. Pastor Leonard followed us, his voice rising. "This is wrong. This is a violation. She has rights. She has children. One of the agents turned on him sharply. "Sir, if you continue to interfere, you will be arrested as well." That stopped him, not because he was afraid for himself, but because he knew if he got arrested, there would be no one to help me.
They walked me out of the church, through the doors, down the steps, past people who had gathered outside after hearing the commotion. I saw my daughter Shanice running toward me from across the street. She must have been on her way to service. "Mama! Mama!" She tried to reach me, but an agent blocked her path. "Miss, stay back." "That's my mother. Where are you taking her?" "She's being detained for deportation. If you want information, contact ICE." "Deportation? She's been here 30 years. She has 4 children, 7 grandchildren. You can't." But they already were. They put me in the back of a van. No handcuffs yet, but the doors locked from the outside. I pressed my face against the small window and watched my daughter standing on the sidewalk, sobbing, her phone pressed to her ear. I watched my church family pour out of the building, their faces stricken with shock and disbelief. I watched Pastor Leonard standing at the top of the steps, his hand over his heart, his mouth moving in what I knew was a prayer. And then the van pulled away. They took me to a detention facility in New Jersey. I spent the next 48 hours in a nightmare. I was processed like a criminal. Fingerprints, photos, strip search. They took my belongings, my phone, my cross necklace. I was given a uniform and put in a holding cell with a dozen other women. Most of them didn't speak English. Most of them looked just as terrified as I felt. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I sat on a metal bench and stared at the wall, trying to process what had just happened. They raided my church during worship. They took me in front of my entire congregation, in front of children. What country does this? A guard came the next morning and called my name. "Williams, you have a phone call." It was Shanice. "Mama, oh my God, Mama, are you okay?" Her voice broke me. I started crying for the first time since this whole thing began. "Baby, I'm okay. I'm okay. We're trying to get a lawyer. We're trying to stop this. Marcus is making calls. Ayana is reaching out to immigration advocates. We're going to fight this, Mama. We're not going to let them take you." But even as she said it, I knew the truth. They were going to take me. "Baby, listen to me," I said, my voice shaking. "I need you to be strong. I need you to take care of your brother and your sisters. I need you to—" "Mama, don't talk like that. We're going to fix this." "Shanice," I closed my eyes. "I love you. I love all of you. You tell them that. You tell them every day." She was sobbing now. "Mama, please." The guard tapped his watch. "Time's up." "I have to go, baby." "Mama, no!" The line went dead. The next day, they put me on a plane. I was handcuffed, escorted by 2 agents, seated in the back away from other passengers. I looked out the window as we lifted off. I watched America get smaller and smaller beneath me. The place I had called home for 30 years. The place where I had raised my children. The place where I had found my voice. Gone. They dropped me off at the Kingston airport with nothing but the clothes on my back and a plastic bag with my belongings. No one was there to meet me. I didn't know anyone anymore. My mother had passed years ago. My father was in a nursing home. My old friends had moved on with their lives. I was a stranger in the country I was born in. I found a small room to rent in a neighborhood I didn't recognize. I used the little money my children wired me to buy a phone and some basic necessities. And then I sat on the edge of a thin mattress in a place that didn't feel like home, and I wept. For days, I barely moved. I didn't eat much. I didn't talk to anyone. I just existed in a fog of grief and disbelief.
My children called every day. They told me they were still fighting, still trying to find a way to bring me back. They had hired a lawyer, they had contacted their congressman, they had started a petition. But I knew the system. I knew how it worked, or didn't work. Baby, I don't want you spending all your money on lawyers, I told Shanice. You have your own family to take care of. Mama, you are my family. We're not giving up. Marcus sent me articles about the case. Apparently, it had made the news. People were outraged. Immigration advocates were using my story as an example of the cruelty of the system. Church member deported after ICE raid during Sunday service. I didn't want to be a headline. I just wanted to go home. And then something unexpected happened. A judge in New York called for a hearing. He wanted to review my case. He wanted to know why ICE had raided a church during a religious service. He wanted to know why I had been deported so quickly without a chance to see my children. My lawyer called me breathless with cautious hope. Grace, this is rare, very rare, but the judge is ordering your immediate return to the U.S. for a hearing. He's granting you temporary asylum while your case is reviewed. I didn't believe it at first. It felt too good to be true. But 2 weeks later, I was on a plane back to New York, not in handcuffs this time, as a person.
My children were waiting for me at the gate, all 4 of them, and my 7 grandchildren. When I saw them, I dropped my bag and ran. I wrapped my arms around them and held on like I would never let go. We stood there in the middle of the airport, crying and laughing and holding each other, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. "Mama, you're home," Shanice whispered. "You're home." The hearing took place a month later. The judge was an older man with kind eyes and a serious expression. He listened to my story. He listened to my lawyer. And then he looked at the ICE agents who had executed the raid. "You raided a church during Sunday service," he said slowly. "You arrested a woman who has been in this country for 30 years, a woman with 4 American children and 7 American grandchildren. You deported her within 48 hours with no opportunity to say goodbye to her family or gather her belongings." The ICE attorney started to respond, but the judge held up his hand. "I don't care what your procedures say. I don't care what your protocols are. What you did was a violation of human dignity. It was a violation of the sanctity of religious worship, and it was, in my view, a violation of this woman's civil rights." He ordered my immediate return, which had already happened, and granted me asylum while my case was reconsidered. "Mrs. Williams," he said, looking directly at me, "I cannot undo what was done to you, but I can try to make it right. You will have a fair hearing, you will have time to present your case, and you will not be taken from your family again without due process." I couldn't speak. I just nodded, tears streaming down my face. That was 6 months ago. I'm still fighting my case. It's not over yet. But I'm here. I'm home. I'm with my family. And last Sunday, I stood in the choir stand at Mount Zion Baptist Church for the first time since that terrible day. When Pastor Leonard saw me walk in, he stopped mid-sentence. The entire congregation turned. And then, slowly, they all stood up. They didn't clap. They didn't cheer. They just stood in silence, bearing witness. I walked to my spot, 2nd row, 3rd from the left. I put on my robe, I opened my hymnal, and I sang. We sang Amazing Grace again, but this time I heard every word differently. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I thought about what I had lost, my dignity, my sense of safety, my belief that if you just lived a good life, you'd be protected. But I also thought about what I had found. I found out who my real family was, not just the people I shared blood with, but the people who stood up for me, who fought for me,
who refused to let me be erased. I found out that my voice, the one thing they couldn't take from me, was more powerful than I ever knew. And I found out that home isn't just a place, it's the people who love you. It's the hands that hold yours when you're falling apart. It's the prayers that are whispered on your behalf when you can't speak. I don't know what will happen with my case. I hope I'll be allowed to stay. I hope I'll finally get the legal status I should have had 30 years ago. But even if I don't, even if they come for me again, I know this. I lived here. I loved here. I raised my children here. I sang in that choir for 25 years, and no deportation order can take that away from me. I belonged here. I still belong here. And if they take me again, my voice will still echo in that church. My children will still carry my love. My story will still matter, because I was here and I was seen. They said I ruined my life by staying in this country illegally, but they never knew the truth. I didn't ruin my life. I built one, and it was beautiful. If this story touched you, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below telling me what you think. I read every single one. And if you want to hear more real stories like this, stories that matter, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. And remember, everyone has a story worth telling.